the most powerful influence on any microbial community is food. There is no more powerful medicine in the world than food. Nothing will come close to the effect of food on your body.
From the Weston A. Price Foundation, welcome to the Wise Traditions podcast for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. We are your source for scientific knowledge and traditional wisdom to help you achieve optimal health. And now here is our host and producer, Hilda Labrada Gore.
Hey, Hilda here. Every chronic disease is born in the gut. So said Hippocrates over 2,000 years ago. And so says today's guest. She also suggests that it is possible to heal and seal the gut, and in this way to cultivate robust physical and mental health. This is episode 391, and our guest today is Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, creator of the GAPS Nutritional Protocol. Dr. Natasha is a researcher, speaker, and author who has helped transform the health of countless people through the GAPS protocol. GAPS stands for Gut and Psychology and Gut and Physiology Syndrome. Natasha is convinced that restoring gut health, understanding this gut-brain connection, can help heal numerous physical conditions, including thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions, insomnia, allergies, and psychological conditions like depression, anxiety, ADHD, and more. Even brain fog and skin rashes can be reversed, and all sorts of conditions that we might not even normally associate with gut health. Natasha reviews GAPS today, but she also speaks to the dangers of pseudo-foods in the diet that are essentially like antibiotics in the body. She talks about toxins like glyphosate and how they compromise our gut health. She also reminds us of the healing power of real food and epigenetics, how our lifestyle can help us reverse diagnoses that might have once seemed irreversible to us. In sum, Natasha says that healing the gut can bring about a number of surprising benefits, including helping us live with vibrant health and greater resilience than we may have ever experienced before. Before we dive into the conversation, I want to invite you to support the work we do here at the Weston A. Price Foundation. Become a member. We rely on members to fund our research, undergird advocacy, and enable education. And initiatives like this podcast. Help us get the word out by becoming a member today for only $30 a year using the code POD10. Go to westonaprice.org and click on the Become a Member button. Again, use the code POD10, and for $30 a year, you'll receive our quarterly journal, our annual shopping guide, and a welcome package with dietary guidelines and informational brochures. Thank you from all of us at the Foundation in advance. And a quick shout out to Redmond Salt. There's a vast difference in the quality of salts on the market today. Many salts contain anti-caking agents, dextrose, which is sugar, and many have been heat processed and stripped of their natural trace minerals. Not Redmond Real Salt. Redmond Real Salt brand sea salt, on the other hand, is unrefined and full of natural minerals and flavor, the way salt was meant to be savored. I personally love this salt and a bunch of their other products too, including their toothpaste, their electrolyte mixes, and more. So head over to redmond.life and see what they've got, and place your order using the code word WISE for 15% off at checkout. One more time, that's Redmond, REDMOND.LIFE, and the code word WISE for 15% off. This is Hilda Labrada Gore, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. Welcome to Wise Traditions, Natasha.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here again.
It is so good to see you. You are a GAPS hero. I mean, everyone that I know loves you, refers to your books on gut and psychology and gut and physiology syndrome, not to mention Vegetarianism Explained. You just have so much wisdom to bring. And you were one of the first guests on this podcast years ago.
Yes, I remember. This is a very successful podcast.
Oh, so wonderful. So I wanted to have you back because it's time we revisited some of the basics of the GAPS diet. And I imagine for some listeners, this is brand new information. So just talk to us about, first of all, before we get into the diet, why this diet is still trending. Why, since you wrote your book in 2004, this has got sticking power, if you will.
Yes, GAPS has become a global phenomenon. It's been more than 20 years that I worked in this area. And since I've written my first book, it's been translated into 25 languages. People all over the world are following this protocol with great results. And there are more translations coming all the time. Obviously, there are more and more people in the world who need this information because the illnesses and the problems that we human beings have created in this world are spreading. They're spreading to every country. There are GAPS people, I call them GAPsters, GAPS people who have this condition, have this problem. There are GAPsters in every country, and their numbers are growing all over the world. So if you would like, we've got a short time, so I'll go ahead and explain what GAPS is. So GAPS stands for Gut and Psychology and Gut and Physiology Syndrome. What it is, we now know that human body is largely made out of microbes. We are a microbial community. There are far more microbes in your body than human cells. And this microbial world is highly organized. All the species of a balanced microbial community are there, and they all support each other, control each other, don't allow anyone to get out of control. So when there is a balance and harmony between every microbe in that community and your human cells in there as well, you are healthy, you are happy, you're well, you are content, you are enjoying your life. Your body is a perfect vehicle for you to live in and to enjoy yourself. Problem is, we human beings are very good at creating imbalances in nature because we think we know better than what's created this world. Every time you have antibiotics, for example, you damage that microbial community because no antibiotic in the world will kill every microbe. It only chooses particular group of microbes and damages them. The rest of the microbial community remains there, but now the balance is gone. Those that have been killed by the antibiotic are not controlling a myriad of other species anymore, so those species overgrow, get out of control, and the balance is gone. And as a result, microbes which used to be perfectly beneficial for us as part of the balanced microbial community become pathogenic because every microbe in nature can cause trouble if it is out of balance with the rest of nature. And that is GAPS. The majority of these microbes live inside your digestive system. Why? Because if you ask any microbiologist, what is the most powerful influence on a microbial community in nature? The answer is going to be immediately food. You change their food supply, and the whole microbial community will change within a few hours. Because microbes multiply very quickly. They produce trillions of babies per hour. Certain species will disappear, other species will proliferate, depending on what food supply you give to them. Where do we put food in our bodies? Into the digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
That is why the majority of our microbial community live in the digestive system. It is called the gut flora, and that is what I described in my books, in my GAPS books. People with damaged gut flora are called GAPS people. They have an overgrowth of certain species of microbes which turned out to be pathogenic. The beneficial species are missing, and as a result, the body becomes unhealthy. It becomes unwell. The food that used to be perfectly okay for you, now you continue eating that food, and it is now consumed by a different microbial community, pathogenic one. And they convert that food into millions of very poisonous chemicals. At the same time, they damage the integrity of your gut wall, making it porous and leaky. So these chemicals absorb. Our live microbes crawl through and circulate around your body, pathogenic, and undigested foods too.
Right.
Because once the gut wall is damaged and there are big holes in it, food doesn't have a chance to be digested properly before it absorbs. It absorbs improperly digested. So this flow of toxic things becomes a river that flows from your gut into your blood, into your lymph, gets distributed around your body, and wherever this mixture gets to, it causes disease. If it gets into your brain, it will cause mental illness, starting from learning disabilities in children, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and so on, and to schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, obsessive-compulsive disorders, and any other disorder.
And of course, all of these disorders are on the rise in the US, but I imagine worldwide.
GAPS is on the rise. GAPS is marching across the planet.
It really is.
Why? Because we human beings have filled our lives with antibiotic-like chemicals. Majority of chemicals that our industrial agriculture sprays on our fields and then feeds to our animals are antibiotics in their nature. One of the most powerful ones and broad spectrum is glyphosate. And that came out in the 1990s, and it is one of the most widely used industrial chemicals in agriculture. Everything contains glyphosate, even organically labeled produce. So everything you buy in a supermarket, you are eating antibiotics for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you're damaging your microbial community in your gut, first and foremost, and everywhere else in your body all the time, every time you eat, basically. But when that happens, you become a gapster. Once your microbial community is abnormal, it processes the food in an abnormal way. Certain species start proliferating, and as a result, these species poison you. Depending on the mixture of toxins that they produce, you may have this group of symptoms or that group of symptoms. You may develop an autoimmune disease. You might develop rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto or lupus or psoriasis or something else. Or you may develop another form of arthritis or an allergy, eczema, asthma, hives, anything else, anything at all. Every chronic disease, from my point of view, is gaps, whether it's mental or physical. I've divided gaps into two groups, gut in psychology and gut in physiology, because when I first started working with this concept, I worked with children with learning disabilities. So I focused on autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, oppositional defiant disorder, and so on in children. And that's what my book, first book, the yellow book, Gut and Physiology Syndrome, has focused upon. And that came out in 2004 first. The more I worked with these patients, the more I realized that they're physically very ill, that the same source of illness, the gut, that causes their mental problems, causes a plethora of physical problems as well. So I call that part Gut and Physiology Syndrome. And the second book, Gut and Physiology, came out in 2020. So it's a much bigger book. It's a blue book. There it is. Gut and Physiology Syndrome. It covers autoimmune illnesses, neurological, hormonal, gut problems, fatigue, arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, Lyme, all sorts of things.
All sorts of things.
Every chronic disease is born in the gut. Every one of them is gaps. So when you heal through the GAPS nutritional protocol, you lay the solid ground for your body to recover from any chronic disease, even if it has been diagnosed as genetic by our medical profession. I had many. In fact, I have an increasing number of people coming to me now who have been diagnosed with a genetic condition, because that's the area that our science has been looking into for a long time, and they've started discovering this little gene and that little gene and a fragment of a gene somewhere there. And once they find that kind of fragment in you, they say, oh, there we go. This is the connection. This is the cause of your, of your pain and swelling and inflammation and not feeling well. Receive these genetic diagnostic labels, which spells basically a lifelong condition, and there's nothing you can do about genetics. So what I do is to tell these people, don't pay attention to that. Just start the GAPS nutritional protocol.
Yeah.
And I had no end of patients, children and adults, in whom all these symptoms disappear. Maybe they have been genetic, who knows? But genetics are not our destiny. We know that now. We know that epigenetics are far more important. And what is epigenetics? These are environmental factors inside our bodies and outside our bodies, which choose which genes are going to be active and which genes are going to sleep forever. So when you change the environment inside yourself, and food is the most powerful game changer in your environment, and outside yourself, then certain genes go to sleep in your body, while the genes which promote good health wake up and start working, and your symptoms disappear.
Wow. Yeah. I wanted to ask you so many things along the way here, because you have so much rich information to share. The first is, from what you've just said, even if we are eating the best foods, let's say I'm trying to eat only organic, clean things from my farmer, the food is still not going to nourish my body as it should if my gut is leaky, if it's already damaged, if there's already an imbalance with the microbiome. Is that right?
Absolutely. Because if you can't digest your food, it doesn't nourish you. It can be the best, the most expensive food in the world, but if your digestive system is incapable of digesting it, processing it appropriately, then this food doesn't nourish you. That is why the gut is an absolute basis for healing from any chronic disease, no matter what it is. Generally speaking, I tell people that There's place for all forms of healing in the world, and our mainstream medicine has its place. It has developed wonderful ways of saving our lives when it comes to that. So if you got hit by a bus, God forbid, you want mainstream medicine because they know how to deal with life-threatening situations like that. They will repair your body. But when it comes to chronic degenerative conditions, long-term conditions, the mainstream doctor is probably the last person you want to go to. You need to look at your gut, you need to look at your microbial community, you need to speak to alternative practitioners, to nutritionists, homeopaths, osteopaths, naturopaths, people like that, and GAPS practitioners. We have thousands around the world. On gapstraining.com, we have been training health practitioners for many years now. We have thousands of GAPS practitioners, certified GAPS practitioners, who work with people online and in person. On top of that, we have now a second profession called GAPS coach. The coach is a person who has been through the protocol themselves for their own illness or the illness in their family. So they have very valuable practical experience. We train these people and they become fantastic practitioners themselves.
That's wonderful. And tell me, how does the GAPS protocol actually help heal the gut? What does it do? I know it's a three-pronged approach, right? With the changes in the diet, supplementation, and detoxification and lifestyle changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a program. But of course, because we talk about the microbial community, and remember the most powerful influence on any microbial community in nature is food. So diet is the most important part of the GAPS nutritional protocol. It's called the GAPS diet. That's how it's known around the world now. And what this diet does, it heals the gut wall. Remember, the gut wall is damaged in these people. It's porous, it's leaky, lots of things are getting through, things that should not get through. So what we do with the GAPS diet, we build a new gut wall for the person without any holes in it. We heal and seal the gut wall. Takes some time, but we build a new one from quality materials for the person. And it is a careful process, a process that you have to follow rigidly with good discipline over a period of time. At the same time, we change the microbial community in the gut. We rebalance it. We drive out pathogens. We reestablish normal, healthy microbes in there. We change the whole milieu, the whole background, the whole group of these microbes. And because that group of microbes which are in the gut are the headquarters of your microbiome, your whole microbial community in the body, because there are microbes everywhere in your body. There are microbes in your blood vessels, in your brain, in your eyes, in your lungs, in your heart, in your liver, in your joints, in your muscles, everywhere. There are microbes everywhere. But the headquarters of that microbial community is in the gut. So once you change that ministry, that very important, headquarters, they will then change the rest because they're all connected to each other. The whole microbial community, they talk to each other.
It's interesting, this approach, because as you said, it's so different than what conventional medicine or doctors have to offer. And it's just healing from the inside out. It's not popping a pill or trying to change with some convenient thing. And in a way, I think that's why sometimes I find people are resistant to it, because it seems so overwhelming to change so much as opposed to some convenient, quick fix.
Well, every human being is on a journey in this world. Every one of us, the human life is a journey of the growth of your spirit, of learning, spiritual learning, and your soul is learning. We just learn and hopefully grow and evolve rather than devolve. And yes, there are people in this world who are not interested in finding out what the root cause of their disease is. They just want to be comfortable and control their symptoms. Then the mainstream medicine is for you. That's what they will do for you. They will give you pills. They will suppress the pain, suppress the inflammation, suppress all the symptoms so you will feel better. The disease will continue destroying your body. But if you don't care about that, in the meantime, you will feel comfortable and will continue with your activities, whatever it is you do. And there are people who are perfectly satisfied to do that. But if you are one of the people who would like to know the root cause and would like to actually heal your body from the root cause by removing the root cause, by laying the solid foundation for your body to be healthy and robust long-term, then that approach is not for you. For you is the GAPS nutritional protocol, because that's what it will do. There are many other diets in the world, and people ask me questions, what's the difference? between GAPS and, for example, that diet or this approach or that approach. They all have different purposes. And it's important to have the purpose in mind, because from the purpose comes every action, whatever it is you do. If you have your purpose held in your mind solidly, you will march in the right direction. The purpose of GAPS is to heal from the root cause, to rebuild your body out of quality materials, to create a solid quality vehicle for you to live in this material world. And as a result, once you've got that kind of vehicle, you can withstand all sorts of damaging influence from our environment, because humanity has changed the environment on the planet quite seriously. We have a lot of damaging influences around, and many people are becoming sensitive to electromagnetic pollution, to Wi-Fi, to 5G, to our mobile phones, to the food, to the chemicals in the environment, and to the stress, to the whole energetics of the environment. But if you live in a solidly built body made out of quality materials, you can go through the same stress that would cause one person to completely fall apart. You will hardly notice. You become strong and robust, and you can withstand an awful lot without even noticing it.
Coming up, Natasha explains how to get started with the GAPS diet. She also goes over how our very existence and our experience of life can change drastically once the body heals.
You're listening to the Wise Traditions podcast from the Weston A. Price Foundation. We pause now to recognize our sponsors.
Maritime Seafood Company. Their seafood is wild-caught, sustainable, and delivered straight to your door. Plus, it's absolutely delicious. We recently ordered their halibut and shrimp, and we were blown away by the flavor. I guess it's because at Maritime Seafood Company, all of their seafood is frozen at the time of harvest and packed in eco-friendly packaging and delivered within 1 to 2 days to your door. So you can eat well and wild, knowing that you're supporting small family fisheries that have your health, the local fisheries' health, and the overall oceanic environment in mind. By supporting local fishermen, you are directly improving the waters that they fish. So do yourself a favor and taste the difference today. I'm telling you, it can't be beat. Go to Maritime Seafood Company. Again, the sustainable wild-caught seafood company that services you directly at your door. Go to maritimeseafood.com, and that's maritime, MARITHYME, seafood.com, and use the discount code WestonA at checkout for 10% off your first order. That's maritime, MARITHYME, seafood.com. Eat wild with Maritime. And Optimal Carnivore. I've told you before, but I'll tell you again, they have a brand new product called Brain Nourish that you've got to check out. It's a combination of grass-fed beef brain and lion's mane mushrooms in a groundbreaking formula. It is the ultimate whole food nootropic to build a better brain. These two ancestral superfoods have been used for centuries to improve brain function and overall mental well-being, and they're now available for the first time together in convenient capsules. These superfoods can help with supreme focus, elevated mood, improved memory, greater clarity, and enhanced creativity. So go to amazon.com/optimalcarnivore and use the code Weston10 to get 10% off all products. Remember, they've got the Brain Nourish product, a grass-fed organ complex, and a grass-fed liver product at Optimal Carnivore. So go to amazon.com once again /optimalcarnivore and use the code Weston10 to get 10% off. This is Hilda Labrada Gore, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. So let's say someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, I'm in. I want to take it from the bottom up. I want to work on healing my gut. What is the first step in the GAPS diet that would help them get that foundation straight?
You don't have to dive headlong in a deep end straight away, because it is a lot to learn. We have a wonderful course on thegapstraining.com for people who are just starting and who find it all overwhelming. Too much information, too much to understand. They don't know where to begin. Enroll in that course. We will lead you by the hand. You will follow, you will start, you'll be given small steps. All your questions will be answered. You will be literally nurtured and led by the hand through the protocol. And you can do the course at your own pace, whatever suits your situation. This particularly applies to people who have low energy, People with chronic fatigue, for example, or fibromyalgia, or Lyme disease, or another disease where they haven't got much energy and have a brain fog and can't focus very well. It's difficult for them to absorb a lot of information. On top of that, we've got the GAPS practitioners and got the GAPS coaches. The GAPS coaches are hands-on profession. They can actually come to your home, do all the shopping for you, all the cooking for you, be with you, hold your hand through the whole thing, feed you, get you stronger. It's like a nurse, a personal nurse that can be with you who is fully trained how to do it the GAPS way. So this person will actually train you and teach you how to cook and feed you. So when you become strong enough to do all of this yourself, then this person can withdraw a little bit.
Oh, beautiful. I didn't know you had all that. That sounds amazing. And I'm so glad you have these coaches and these practitioners that people can turn to, because it can be a lot. And it is something of an elimination diet at first, right? Where you have to get rid of these foods that aren't serving you and help heal and seal the gut wall with things like meat stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so forth. So yeah, it would be good to have some coaching along the lines. And now, of course, you've mentioned so many of the benefits of taking this GAPS approach: improved energy, sleep, improved cognition function, and clearer skin. Can you tell us a testimonial or two of someone that's benefited from the GAPS protocol?
I have many case studies in my books, and we have published a whole bunch of them in a separate book, which is called GAPS Stories.
Oh.
That book really gives people hope, because I've been receiving letters and emails from people for many years. Many of these stories are so profound, and majority of them actually people who never had any consultations with anyone. They just got my books, followed the book, and got the results. Healed. We have half the stories there from adults and half the stories from families with children. And people recover from such a long list of problems, which are considered to be incurable by the mainstream medicine. Multiple sclerosis, Hashimoto, rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, eczema, psoriasis, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, autism, hyperactivity, ADHD, all sorts of other learning disabilities in children and in adults, insomnia, neuropathies, Guillain-Barré neuropathy, narcolepsy, all sorts of conditions that people would have never connected, epilepsy. I don't know how many. I need to start counting how many children and adults around the world who have recovered from epilepsy with the GAPS diet, with the GAPS nutritional protocol. So all the things that the mainstream doctor would say, no, completely incurable. We can just control the symptoms. You just have to say thank you to that doctor, because that's what they know, that's their paradigm, and move on and look elsewhere. That's all, because we live in a wonderful world where there is lots of information, and the doctors don't have a monopoly on information anymore.
But I am happy too. I feel like even in mainstream media and different periodicals and such that I look at, they seem to understand, even conventional doctors, this kind of gut-brain axis that they've been talking about more, this axis that connects the two, and also the idea that the gut is the second brain, that there's a lot going on there that informs all of the functions in our body.
Absolutely. They understand it all theoretically. But then when it comes to actually what do we do about all of this, it all boils down to suppressing symptoms, where you have to, again, let me reiterate this again, so people understand it just has to be repeated everywhere, all the time. Your body is a microbial community. The most powerful influence on any microbial community is food. There is no more powerful medicine in the world than food. Nothing will come close to the effect of food on your body. So that is the first thing that has to be changed. And of course, many toxic things that are called food nowadays that you buy in supermarkets, they have no right to be called food, really processed concoctions. They have special chemicals added to them, which make you addicted to these things. They're addictive. They turn you into a drug addict, basically. They label that the kind of polite term that is given to this substance, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of them. Food industry is so sophisticated. There are companies that produce maybe even millions now. Maybe this information is outdated. They call these chemicals, if you add this chemical to your food, to your product, you will make it irresistible. That's the word, irresistible. So this sort of processed things, they do not feed your body, but they turn you into a drug addict. You're like a drug addict, you want your drug. You want that irresistible thing. That just causes disease. That's all. And it's difficult to break a drug addiction. It's not easy. It's not pleasant at all. It's not comfortable to come out of that. And that is a big barrier for many people. We have special methods and special ways in the GAPS nutritional protocol how to overcome that, how to break out of that circle, vicious cycle.
Yes. And I've heard that with children sometimes, right? They're fussy eaters.
Children in particular, that's right.
They only want certain foods. So the parents are like, I can't make them eat these more nutrient dense foods that are going to give them a solid foundation. And you suggest that the parents simply do what's best for the child, even if the child resists at first.
Well, the problem is very often the parents, they're addicts themselves. And like any addict, it's very difficult for them to accept that their child can't have these things. The whole family is addicted. So it is not easy. That is why GAPS nutritional protocol, going through it, as I say, life is a journey, going through it, because at the other end, you will come out as a different person. You will change. You will become better, kinder, more loving. There will be more light in you. You will be more enlightened, and you will be stronger. Nobody will be able to bamboozle you again the way they used to before you started the GAPS nutritional protocol. It is life-changing.
And Natasha, I'm pretty sure so many years ago when we had you on the show, you said you believe that most of the population now does have damaged guts. In other words, some people think, oh, I have a little brain fog from now and then, or I struggle with eczema, but they don't see it as very serious. But indeed, probably everyone could benefit from taking on the GAPS protocol. Do you still stand by those thoughts?
Absolutely. I live on the protocol permanently. My family live on it permanently. It just keeps me well and healthy and strong and gives me energy to do a lot of work. And I wouldn't change it for anything, for any kind of attractions in the world. They're just not attractive. And the clear thinking that you get, you just have very clear thinking, crystal clear. It is very difficult for anybody to deceive you, to lure you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and this is really important today because more and more people, even folks in their 20s that I meet say, I can't think straight. They're fatigued. They've got brain fog. They're like, oh, I can't remember. And I'm like, how can they not remember something when they're so young and they should be so vibrant in the prime of their lives, right?
Exactly.
I think they're dealing with this kind of low fog that's constantly present and they can't even imagine what it would feel like to have clear thinking. So this is a beautiful promise and objective that you're putting before them.
Absolutely. You become a real human being because many people in this world who live on processed foods and are addicted to various irresistible chemicals in these concoctions, they've never known what it is to be a real human being. They've been so drugged up. They've got such a brain fog. They can't think straight. They can't focus. They're constantly distracted by this informational noise in the social media and everywhere else around them. They live their life unconsciously. And for the first time, for them to wake up and realize what it is actually like to be a real human being, what we are supposed to be like, is amazing. We are amazing creatures.
You're giving, again, the vision of a beautiful way of living that I think would be so attractive to people. In the meantime, it's like we're all in this pool, kind of doing the doggy paddle. When we could be swimming across the English Channel, if we knew what we were capable of, it's a whole other level.
A whole other level, absolutely. Human beings are very powerful creatures. We are very special. We have a very special function in this world, very special role in this world. But only if we keep our vehicle. Your body is a vehicle that you live in. You can't fly to the moon and very well just jolly jump out of the spaceship and run around in your shorts and t-shirt, right? You need a spacesuit to be in that environment. The same with this material world, with this planet. In order to be here, you have to have a spacesuit, a vehicle that is compatible with this environment, that will allow you to survive. So your body is that vehicle. It's a machine. It's a very wonderful, wonderfully designed, amazing machine. But every machine has rules. What fuel you put into it, how you look after it, what you do with it, you have to maintain it properly. But if you put the wrong fuel in it and you don't maintain it properly, it malfunctions. And as a result, you cannot interact with this environment appropriately. This lever doesn't work and that button doesn't work and the glass is all muddy, you can't see through it properly. You can't drive a vehicle like that. You don't have a quality experience. That's why it's important to look after your body the way the Creator has designed this body. according to certain rules. There are laws and rules on how human body is supposed to be fed and supposed to function and supposed to be treated. If you treat it that way, you suddenly get this perfect, magnificent vehicle. You can see clearly. Every lever works and every button works, and it's an amazing machine. And then you realize the things you can do with it are just absolutely magnificent and amazing. And you couldn't even imagine before that you could do such things.
Well, I just have a couple of questions to ask you as we start to wrap up, Natasha. One is, what is something that has surprised you over the years about this GAPS protocol, or perhaps just about the human body that you were just talking about that's so magnificent? What's something about it that has really taken you by surprise?
Well, every patient is a surprise. I'm a neurologist by training. I worked as a neurosurgeon for several years and as a neurologist in the mainstream medicine before I started my family. Neurology is a wonderful mental exercise when you're diagnosing the patient, but when it comes to treatment, there's not much that can be done. It's all suppressing symptoms and maybe helping here a little bit and there, but you know that the disease will progress, continue, and eventually will destroy the person. That's the kind of the dogma in that environment. So when I started treating people with the GAPS nutritional protocol, and that happened to me not by design, it just happened that way. Life led me on this journey, on this way. I suddenly discovered multiple sclerosis is curable. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is curable. Guillain-Barré is curable. All these neuropathies are curable. Migraine is curable. All of these things are curable. And Hashimoto, other thyroid problems and pancreatic problems and all sorts of hormonal problems are curable. And epilepsy is curable. If you say anything like that to a mainstream neurologist or mainstream endocrinologist, they will think you're crazy, absolutely crazy. They will not listen to you. Where my patients just never cease to surprise me, never cease to amaze me and teach me lessons. They're my main teachers.
So beautiful. So I want to close now with a question I like to pose at the end. It may be related to GAPS or not. If the listener could just do one thing to improve their health, what would you recommend that they do, Natasha?
Make yourself a soup every day. A GAPS soup. A soup has kind of not a good connotation in the Western world. People immediately see a tin with some kind of liquid in it that you microwave. That's not soup. No. Soup is the most amazing and magnificent healing food that every traditional society around the world relied upon for all of our existence on this planet. The basis of every good soup is meat stock. You never make your soup on water. Never. You make good meat stock. And for that, you need connective tissue of the animal. You want bones, you want joints, ligaments, fascias, tails, feet, heads, spine, bits like that. You cook them in water for several hours until the meats become so soft they fall off the bone, and all the gelatinous parts, ligaments and fascias and the joints and the capsules of the joint and all the gelatinous parts there become so soft that you can chew them and eat them. The liquid that is made that way is called the meat stock. So you add a few vegetables into that liquid, you strip all the bones, all the soft tissues off the bones, and you return them with the vegetables into that stock, and here's your soup. It keeps in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. You can always take a portion and warm it up. And if you have a bowl of that every single day, you can add some sour cream to your bowl of soup, you can add some hard-boiled egg or soft-boiled egg, greens, garlic, spices, whatever it is you prefer. If you have a bowl of that soup once a day, if that's the only change you make in your life, that will already bring a lot of benefits.
Well, what a beautiful note to end. Thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you for coming to our Wise Traditions Conference and for sharing this information all around the world. We are so grateful.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody at Knoxville.
Our guest today was Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. Check out her website starting with gaps.me. And I'll put the other websites in the show description that can point you in the right direction for starting with GAPS. And I'm Hilda Labrada-Gore, the host and producer of this podcast for the Weston A. Price Foundation. You can find me and my resources at holistichilda.com. And for the transcript for this podcast episode, visit our website, westonaprice.org, and click on the podcast page. And now for a letter to the editor from a recent journal. Sue from Colorado had this to say: the amount of mercury in one amalgam filling is enough to poison all of the fish in a 20-acre lake and make them poisonous to human beings. I have done extensive research on chelation and I have found the Andrew Cutler protocol to be the only safe way to remove mercury. In terms of food that helps, I have found 2 studies showing that much more mercury is removed through the bile than through the kidneys. In one study, 9 times more is removed, and in another study, 29 times more is removed from bile versus from the kidneys. Using this information and knowing that bile is released in quantity when we eat fats, I decided to test this theory while I was chelating. When I am not eating butter and other fats, I get a moderate kidney pain when I'm chelating. But if I eat bread and a thick smear of butter with every meal, there is no pain. If I forget to eat the butter and I notice that I have kidney pain, I can eat a slice of bread with lots of butter and the pain is gone in half an hour. It is much easier for us to remove mercury and other toxins via the bile and liver than it is to remove them via the kidneys. The kidneys are just not meant to remove mercury. Also, Andy Cutler does not recommend using cilantro, chlorella, and garlic to remove mercury. Although they are mercury mobilizers and some mercury will be removed from the body, they're not strong enough to hold on to the mercury until it is completely gone from the body. This will cause the mercury that is released in the body to be redistributed. And where will it go? To the vital organs like the heart, liver, kidneys, pancreas, brain, thyroid, and any other place it can find. You might be taking mercury out of the muscle tissue where it does very little harm, and instead putting it into your brain or heart where it can do a tremendous amount of damage. I have heard of people who chelated with substances that they thought were good chelators and ended up with Alzheimer's. It is not worth doing chelation the wrong way. Sue, thank you for this letter. I also have heard a lot of good things about the Cutler protocol, and some time back I reviewed a book written by Rebecca Rustley and Andy Cutler on how to remove mercury from the body. So thanks for this timely reminder. And thank you, my friend, for listening. If you'd like to write a letter to the editor on any topic, just send us an email to info@westonaprice.org and put letter to the editor in the subject line. It might just end up in the journal and then subsequently on this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. Stay well. Hasta pronto.
On behalf of the Weston A. Price Foundation, thanks for listening. We have many free resources to support you on your health journey. Visit westonaprice.org to find podcasts, articles, videos, and more. You can also find a local chapter near you for help in finding sources of great food. We invite you to support the Foundation's mission of education, research, and activism by becoming a member. Thanks again, and take care. Wise Traditions is a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. The content on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professional. It is not intended to be, nor does it constitute healthcare or medical advice.